Welcome back. The Eswatini Energy Regulatory Authority is calling on the public to participate in public consultations on standardized connection charges. They say that they are aimed at establishing a fair, consistent, as well as transparent framework for electricity connection costs. Now, the consultations will also cover wheeling framework charges, which seek to introduce indicative fees for the use of the Eswatini Electricity Company's transmission as well as the distribution networks. To unpack these key issues further, we're now joined by Nozipho Mthimkhulu, the tariff analyst at ESERA. Thank you so much for joining us here on the program. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ngumalo, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, I suppose you did express to me that you want to give a more so comprehensible overview of what it is that we are talking about. So I want to provide that opportunity first.
Thank you so much. I think it will just be to highlight that obviously the authority developed the connection charge guidelines in 2021.
Right.
This was actually as a result of the public outcry when it came to electricity connections, or quotations rather. So many customers were actually burdened by the fact that there's so many inconsistencies when it comes to their quotations, and they didn't actually understand the charge or the costs associated with their quotations.
Yes.
So as a result, then the authority developed these guidelines. So this guideline addresses two types of charges. The first charge, we call it the standardized connection charges. And the second one, we refer to those as the non-standardized. So the application that we've received from the electricity company speaks to the standardized connection charges, which are particularly charges relating to customers who will be connected within a range of 350 meters from the connection point. So by a connection point, we refer to a transformer that is actually situated in that specific area. So if any customer is actually within the radius of 350 meters, then they will be charged in accordance with the standardized connection charges. Then for those who are actually situated outside the range of the 350 meters, then there's a different kind of charges that will be levied. But for now, those aren't active.
Those fall under non-standardized?
They will then fall under non-standardized, yes. Right. Thank you so much for that.
Cool.
So particularly, pretty much the application speaks to that, and the consultations that we're asking customers to join us on will just be addressing the standardized.
Okay, makes sense. I suppose that addresses what challenges and inconsistencies prompted this whole development. But I suppose we want to get into the two most highlighted things here in terms of your goals, which is transparency as well as fairness.
Yes.
How is that going to be addressed to ensure that consumers, especially those within remote areas, are not unfairly burdened by the connection costs?
Yeah. So what we'll actually have out of this exercise is that these charges will actually be published. That's the first thing, Mr. Ngumalo, because before, customers would normally go to the service centers where they will be quoted, and so many other customers would receive different codes. So now you at least know that if you're actually located 50 meters away from the transformer, you'll definitely be charged, I'll make an example, say maybe 10,000. If you are 100 meters away from the transformer, you'll be charged a certain fee. So these charges will actually be published and they'll be available to customers. Yes, there may be slight changes here and there caused by transport costs, obviously, because you might find that traveling to your place or my place would have that slight variance.
Right.
But at least the majority of the cost, you would know what to expect from your quotation. Unlike right now, where you'd actually just be surprised to get a quotation of 50,000 and have a neighbor tell you that, oh, my quotation was actually 4,000. And then you're like, okay, what criteria was used? So at least now there's a proper structure, there's a criteria, and we actually have this guideline being used for the first time in Eswatini. So we, as the regulator, our main aim is actually just to provide a structured framework or guideline to actually just address all these issues that were as a result of an unstructured approach.
Yeah, and speaking of frameworks, this term, wheeling framework charges, is that what you're speaking to right now? Because I want us to get into that. Explain how it works in practice, as well as what introducing indicative fees for EEC's network could mean for future energy, as well as private investors.
Thank you for that. I think maybe first I'd like to say that the word frameworks or regulatory instrument, it comes up like, it will come up like a million times.
So wheeling, that's...
Yeah, any framework or rule or guide, you can refer to it as a regulatory instrument or a framework or a guideline,
cool.
But particularly to the wheeling framework. So what we're looking at there is that it's actually just an instrument. I don't want to use the word framework. It's an instrument
Right.
that will be used by mostly IPPs, the independent power producers.
Okay.
So what we actually envision is that the IPP will actually set up a plant, say at a specific location, and then use the existing EEC infrastructure to actually wheel power to another location. What we are avoiding is that given the infrastructure that we already have, we are avoiding that IPPs would come up and set up their own infrastructure.
Sure.
You don't want to have like spaghettis and spider webs, all over. So you want to actually have like an infrastructure that is actually following like proper technical requirements. So and as a result of that, then the expectation is that the independent power producer or that specific business will then pay a certain charge or fee to the EEC. So this then allows private sectors to be part of the game, if I may put it like that. This framework also integrates with the Southern African Power Pools framework, where we actually also source some of our power, meaning that as Eswatini, when we get to a point whereby we have like excess energy, then we can be in a position as a country to also export. Currently, we are importing about 70%, and through wheeling, that is how we're able to get that power to Eswatini. And the same framework will allow us to actually export when we reach a net export position.
It looks like it's going to remedy a lot of economic problems that we are, going through as the nation. But let's speak to introducing indicative fees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So particularly the fees are meant to give they're meant to be an indicator to the IPP to know that, okay, if I'm actually wheeling over a certain distance, then this is the expected charge that I will have. But mainly, I just want to say that the charges are actually separated into two, because the network that we're looking into, it's a transmission network and also the distribution network. So for the transmission network particularly, based on the method that we are using or the model for determining these charges, the framework or the model looks particularly into the impact that these particular IPP will actually make on the network. What we expect is that the IPP will inject the power into the network, and then a customer or another party will actually extract the power from the network. So based on whatever impact that these two parties cause on the network, then they will actually pay certain charges. So our model, when calculating those charges, takes that into consideration. However, for the distribution network, what we're looking into is that the model will just particularly calculate the distance only. If you're actually wheeling your power from Matapa to say maybe Manzini. So if that's 10 kilometers then, and you're actually wheeling power that's about 1 or 2 megawatts, so we'll actually consider both the distance and the capacity that you're wheeling. So the model actually works like that. So these charges are meant to actually just give IPPs an indication of what would be expected for them to pay to EEC on an annual basis.
Yeah. Finally, let's wrap up the conversation. Public consultations are a key part of our regulatory accountability. How do our citizens ensure that their input will count, essentially?
Yeah. So first off, we've actually issued out consultation papers, because ahead of these consultations, we want our stakeholders to read and be well informed, so that they can actually make this, or rather make impactful contributions. And secondly, what we actually aim to achieve through this, and as you've earlier on highlighted, that we seek to achieve transparency and fairness, is that we don't want some of these regulatory decisions to be done in secrecy. So we aim for these to be and also to involve every other citizen that is actually affected. And I might just say that these two frameworks that we're talking about, these instruments, they are also as a result of consultations. As we've said, that there was a public outcry, and then the regulator responded through the standardized connection charges. Same here, we wanted, Eswatini needed private sector players. We developed the wheeling framework. So we take consultations very seriously, and the inputs and the contributions from the customer. We take all of that into consideration. It may not necessarily be actioned immediately, but we do keep record of that, and we do actually consider all of these inputs in our decision.
Okay, thank you. Nozipho Mthimkhulu, Tariff Analyst, ESERA. Let's go quickly to our market analysis. We have under 5 minutes.